rock stars. This is Chrissy O from the Chrissy O Podcast Show. Here we go, babies. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Chrissy O's Clucky Chronicles over on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to go shop with Chrissy O. Look at the blog. Read all about these fluffs on crissyoshow.com. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast show. Let's get started. All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Chrissy O's Clucky Chronicles podcast. Now, this is a podcast show today where I'm going to be tackling the sometimes taboo topics of raising chickens affordably. And I think it's pretty important to talk about this particular topic because, I mean, come on, y'all, let's be real. There's the dream of fresh eggs, backyard clucking, fluffy babies, and maybe, just maybe, even a freezer full of ethically raised meat. It can quickly turn into a nightmare of unexpected cost. Now, you guys have seen all the Instagram, Facebook, social media, Pinterest, perfect coops with these designer chickens, this gourmet feed, and the seemingly endless budgets. I mean, you've seen it. We've all seen it. But let's just be honest. That can be extremely intimidating, misleading at times, and ridiculous. Plus, it can make you feel like you're just raising chickens, you know, just for the expense of it and not for what you want to raise chickens for. And I mean, let's just face it, you know, it can make you feel like you're raising chickens. It's only for all the Martha Stewarts of the world, and that's not the case here, okay? So let's dive in. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about it, and I'm going to tell you that all of that mess and all this junk that you've seen, it's just a load of chicken crap. Literally, it's a load of chicken crap. You don't need to break your bank. You can enjoy chickens and all the benefits and joys of raising all these chickens and fluff babies. You can enjoy that without breaking your bank, okay? Now, it doesn't matter to me if you're after farm fresh eggs or just feathered pets or a sustainable source of protein for you or your family. I'm telling you that it is possible to do it without shame and without emptying your wallet. The point of it is how bougie are you? Really? How bougie do you want things to appear? Are you a social media influencer? Are you trying to showcase what you're doing, or do you want to do it, and what type of reasons do you want to do it for? If you're more for the aesthetically pleasing side of things, then I guess if you have a budget that can pour into thousands upon thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars into these aesthetically pleasing areas, coops, barns, whatever, then my advice to you is to completely go for that. But if you're like the average person and you're like me and my family and our little farmstead here, that's not the case. We have to work 1 and 2 jobs for a living, and I'm really not worried about the aesthetics of how coops and all of these things look, as long as it provides sturdy, good shelter, it's clean, the babies are well taken care of, and everybody's happy. I really don't aesthetically care so much as long as it's a safe environment and it protects my babies. But you do you, boo. I'm just letting you know that there is an affordable way of doing things, and I'm going to go over a few things with you today, and I'm going to be showing you a few things over on the YouTube channel. So this podcast show is also going to go over on the YouTube channel, and I'm just going to show you a few things. That way you can look at a few price comparisons, make sure that things are within your budget. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. But I just want to let you know that you can raise chickens. It doesn't matter if you raise 2, 4, 6, 8, or 60. You can do that without shame and without emptying your wallet. Clucky, let's get started. So we're going to do a kind of a deep dive into like the practical side of chicken keeping And I'm going to be talking about budget-friendly, like coop constructions, feeding strategies, and different types of things that don't involve overpriced items or materials that you think you would need, and how to navigate that world of, chicken health and chicken safety without constantly having to figure out, oh my gosh, I saw XYZ had this. I wonder if I need to buy this piece of equipment or if I need to get this or that. It's all about necessity. What are you going to need for you or your family, your brand new farmstead, your brand new homestead, or if you just want to keep them in your backyard? Also, I'm just going to talk about different needs and kind of help you choose the right things for your budget and for your lifestyle, especially if you're not looking to doll up things and be overly aesthetically expensive. Yes, you can keep things nice and neat and looking well, not run down or whatever, but just to make sure that you're not breaking your bank and breaking your budget. So I'm not talking about cutting corners. I'm not talking about neglecting your flock. I'm talking about being smart, being resourceful, being budget friendly, and maybe you can even be a little bit crafty. So what I'm talking about basically is the understanding that raising chickens sustainably and affordably, it's completely, totally achievable. So, if you're ready to ditch the shame or embrace the cluck and you want to start your own backyard chicken adventure without breaking your bank, then, you're in the right place. So we're going to get cracking, pun intended. All right. So now let's just say that you're ready to jump into the world of chickens and chicken keeping. That's fantastic. But let's talk about this before you even envision yourself or whatever, wading through the sea of fluffy butts and endless eggs. We got to talk about the dreaded B word, and that's budget. Nobody ever wants to talk about budget and expense, and I know budgets aren't glamorous, and it's not as exciting as picking out your first chick or designing your Taj Mahal of chicken coops, but let me give you some solid advice. Having a budget, a solid budget that you can afford and to go by to start your chicken adventure, whether it's backyard chickens, free-range chickens, pet chickens, meat bird chickens, it doesn't matter. Let's just say chickens. Doesn't matter what you want to do with them. Your budget is going to be the foundation of your success and your stress-free chicken keeping experience. Now, I use the word stress-free very loosely because anytime you have pets or animals, there is going to be some considerable amount of stress that goes with that because you're dealing with animals and you got to also deal with vet bills and that type of thing. So keep that in mind. But we also want to be real because the last thing you want is, your dream of having these chickens, backyard chickens or what have you. You don't want it to turn into a financial nightmare. And I've seen that happen way too many times with people when they get so super involved in, oh my God, I'm going to have chickens. I want to have chickens. I'm going to do this and that. And they've created all these Pinterest boards and they've created all these Instagram photos and all of these things, not realizing the ridiculous expense that can come with that. So I'm going to try to help you thwart that just a little bit. Let's talk about a couple of key things here. And one of the key things is attainable and affordable. I just want you to forget about trying to replicate anything that you saw on Pinterest, the perfect setups that look like they cost more than your car, okay? We're going to be aiming for sensible, practical, and most importantly, within your means, within your budget, within your means. It's not a competition. It's totally not. And the chickens really don't give a crap. They don't care. It's about finding what works for you, your family, and your lifestyle. And first things first, you got to break down the basics. Feed. That's going to be a recurring expense. You got to make sure that you're finding the type of feed. There's going to be so many people that are going to tell you to buy this feed, buy that feed, buy this feed, buy that feed. As long as it's feed, I don't like medicated feed, but whatever your chicken vet tells you, if you have a chicken vet or if you're going to fly by the seat of your pants and do like everybody else that's had chickens for thousands of years, do whatever kind of feed that you like. But I'm here to tell you, feed is going to be a recurring expense. So when you're looking at feed and different feed options, here are a couple of pictures that I'm just going to show you here of what the price ranges can go from. Now, they can be as high as $30 depending on what kind of feed you feel like they need, and they can be as low sometimes as $15, $16, $17 for a very large bag of feed. And you want to make sure that you've got enough money for that feed. And not only that, but you've got to have a place to put that feed. And what I like to use is one of those nice Rubbermaid, it's very sturdy for outdoor use, trash cans. Wonderful. I've had a video on YouTube on that before on how to drill the holes for non-spilling feed and how we do that. You can do it with PVC pipe, or you can use just the regular feeder cups for those. I'll try to link that in the description somewhere in here for you to go back and look at how we made our feed barrels. You can also do that for your water barrels. And these are very large round trash bins with the lid that snaps on, okay, that keeps anybody from getting in, predators from getting in, and it also keeps anything from getting in and drowning that you don't want to drown. So feed is going to be your biggest expense to start off with. Then you've got to deal with bedding. Bedding depends on what you want to use. Now, some people like to use sand. Some people like to use pellets. I like to use the shavings, the thick pine shavings, not the fine ones, because I found out that the fine shavings actually gives my chickens respiratory infections, and then you have to make a vet visit. That's an expense right there. So it's something to think about. Now, you can get large bricks of bedding, and you can get those for like a little over $7, and you can go all the way up as expensive as you want to get. Heck, you can even haul in, depending on the type of sand that you want to use, if that's what you want to go for. If you want to get a truckload, in my area it could be anywhere from $350 to $700, depending on the type of sand, and you want clean sand if that's the way you want to go. You can figure out how much a bale of hay will go for if you want to use hay, if you want to use straw. Just understand that feed, bedding, those types of things are recurring expenses. So you want to factor that in on what do you want to use. You don't have to use the most bougie. Chickens have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They have been able to maintain themselves. Now, if you're free ranging, you're not going to need all this stuff. You're just not. I mean, you're going to need the feed, obviously, but you're not going to need like the bedding for the coops or things like that if you're letting them free range, unless you have a place for them to bed down or to go to out, if they're semi-free ranging. But that's up to you. But just to know, be upfront, this is an expense you're going to have to really think about. Another topic that people don't really think about in their budget is, don't start ginormous. Start very small. 2, 4, 6, or 8 chickens. It's perfect to start off for any farm, family, backyard, whatever you want to do. But starting small is always realistic, and it's always a good idea. And you need to be thinking about how many chickens you want, how many can you afford, with the recurring costs of already established feed and bedding. So you want to make sure that you've got all those things down. And you don't want to jump right in with like 20 chickens if you've never even held one or had one or been around one, because I'm telling you, that's going to be too much. I don't care what you see on TV. I don't care what you see. I've always said that on my YouTube channel. Don't jump into this thing head first, because you're going to hit your head and you're going to hate that you did that. because every chicken, depending on the breed, even if it's a mixed backyard breed of chicken, every chicken's going to eat a certain amount of feed per day, and that's going to add up. That is definitely going to add up. And they're going to be all over the place. And if you've never dealt with them and you're like, oh, I see Crissy's walking around with her big old 9-pound Rhode Island red rooster Nanaroo, and he's just so sweet and darling, I'm going to do that too. No, because that takes a lot of time. You know, you've got to be able to put in a lot of time. And I don't care if you have a rooster, he may not be like Nanaroo. He may not be so friendly that you can rub his wattles. All chicken breeds are different. All chickens have personalities. You may want to snuggle, cuddle, hug them, and them to sit on you. That is not always going to be the case, because as you can see out there on my yard, if you watch the episodes on Crissy's Clucky Chronicles YouTube channel, that hasn't happened to me, and I've hatched and raised pretty much everything I've got, with the exception of my very beginning roosters that I've had for years that are kind of old maids out there now, and old guys. So I'm telling you, don't start off crazy. Don't build this massive thing and then you're not going to be able to interact if that's what you want to do. Now, if you don't want to interact with your chickens and you're using them for meat birds or whatever for your freezer lockers, fine, great. You don't spend that much time with a meat bird or broiler hen or anything like that anyway if you're just processing them and using them for meat. But if you're using them for eggs, for laying hens, and you want to establish some type of relationship with them and a positive relationship with them so you can gather eggs and not have that issue, then, you know, you might want to definitely downsize. I always say do 2, 4, 6, or 8. Don't go any higher than that. Don't go any higher than that because you'll end up regretting it in the beginning. Now, you got to make sure that you're balancing your cost with your nutrition, your feed, you know, that kind of thing, and with your bedding. So make sure that that's in your budget and laid out pretty well. So let's go ahead and talk about this, because this seems to be something that people send me messages about, emails and things, and I'm like, really? Okay. We'll go over it. It seems like it's something everybody wants to talk about. So I'm going to talk about housing. Okay, so we're going to talk about coops and runs. Now, again, let me tell you, let's just forget about Taj Mahal, chicken barns, chicken coops. Forget about it. I don't care how many beautiful pictures you've seen. I don't care how much stuff you've seen on YouTube, social media, whatever. In the real world, in real life, that really doesn't happen. You don't even see that on my yard. I told you about the barn costs that I have. We'll go over that in a little bit. And I told you about my chicken runs, how much they approximately costed. I'm going to put some pictures in here for you to see the cost of those and where I got stuff from. So if you can afford it and it's in your budget, then do it. I don't even know what your budget is. I mean, is your budget $500? Then you're going to have to get a skimpy little coop from somewhere that you're going to be able to afford a $250 coop that's only going to be able to hold 2 or 4 chickens, maybe 6 chickens at best. So those are things that you're going to have to keep in mind. You'll have a little coop and a little teeny tiny run, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm telling you, all of these weird pipe dreams and things and all these pictures and all this stuff and these videos that you see of all these people, they got more money than me and you, okay? Let them do what they need to do, but don't let it influence you to break your bank or to ruin your budget, okay? All you need is a secure, functional coop or a run. That's it. That's what you need. You don't need a palace. They don't need a palace. I'm telling you, chickens don't care. Okay, there are so many affordable coop designs, run designs. You can even repurpose like existing structures like we did, and you can build anything from scratch on a budget if that's what you want to do. And, you know, your run, all it does is just keep your chickens safe from predators and gives them a place to roam. You know, you got to think about, number one, how much space do you got available? And how much are you willing to invest in fencing? If you're going to free range, that's completely different. If free range means they're free to go wherever the heck it is they want to go, free to just crap all over your cars, your porches, because that's what they're going to do. And they're going to just go all over the place and do whatever they want to do. And they'll probably have some predator issues. You'll notice, hey, I had 8 chickens, now I have 6. Somebody made a snack out of them. So that don't even equate into what we're talking about here. So you got to make sure, don't think palace, just think affordable. What can I afford? What can I do? Chickens don't care as long as they're fed, they're safe, and disease-free. That's it. They don't really care. They're going to do the rest of what chickens do daily, okay? That all falls back on budget, and it all falls back on you. So make sure you're investing, and you're doing your budget, and you're doing everything wisely, okay? And let me reinforce here, too, that chicken keeping should be enjoyable and not a source of stress for you, okay? So if you cannot afford to have a chicken or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, it's best not to do it. I know everybody's like, oh, the cost of this is going up, the cost of that's going up. Yeah, it does. And trust me when I tell you that those 2, 4, 6, or 8 chickens, even if you do a dozen chickens for a dozen eggs, they're not going to lay you a dozen every day. So you may end up still having to be buying those eggs intermittently in between, because every chicken, depending on the breed, is not going to lay an egg for you every day. They cycle. Some may lay every other day. I've got some that lay every 3rd and 4th day. So I'm just telling you, if you're getting them for laying hens and things like that, be mindful. And, just remember, there ain't no shame in it. There ain't no shame in keeping chickens and keeping what you got simple and affordable. Because I'm telling you, we're all doing this together. All of us, except for the Taj Mahal Palace coops. We're all doing this together. We're here to help you kind of cluck your way to a budget-friendly chicken adventure, All right, so let's get off of that topic from budget, okay? Now, we've talked about budget. We've talked about the needs. Now, I want to talk about, creativity. One of the most rewarding aspects of raising chickens and keeping it affordable, actually, for us, is getting your hands dirty and building things yourself. And we've done a lot. We have built a lot of things ourselves. And I ain't talking about hiring no contractor to build you no palace chicken coop. No, none of that. I'm talking about just embracing the art of upcycling, repurposing, and generally turning a trash piece into treasure, because you can literally be amazed at what you can create with little imagination and just some good old-fashioned elbow grease, which you guys have seen us do. I had a washing machine that broke. We took the innard parts of the washing machine out. I used the inside barrel as a burn barrel because it has the air holes on it. And then we cleaned the actual box of the washing machine, turned it over on its side, and it has the big large hole in the front, filled it full of bedding. I put it in my quail barn, and the top that's open, we made a nice lid for it using some little 2x4s and some hardware cloth over the top of it, and put a grow light or a red, heater light over the top of it. And I'm just telling you, that's absolutely a wonderful way to repurpose and recycle some things. Now, also, if you remember that old bookcase, and I've had several of them, that I was just showing you. I had some, they were just gathering dust, and the boys weren't using them anymore, and I didn't need them anymore when I left the studio. So I just turned them into my very stylish nesting boxes. So those were wonderful. And I have a pile of pallets that somebody gave me for free. Absolutely love the pallets. I mean, you got instant coop walls. You've got all types of stuff that you can use with just things that you have around your yard or your house, or things that you can just acquire and get, You just got to make sure that if you're using things that you're upcycling, just make sure it's sturdy, make sure it's secure, and make sure it's thoroughly cleaned. That's all you got to do. It's predator proof. So, I'm just all about using what you got. If you can use what you got, transform crates into feed storages or nesting boxes, repurpose your baskets into whatever, old little swimming pools, make you some dust baths out of them, anything, it doesn't have to look fancy and perfect as long as it gets the job done and you're not so much worried about aesthetics. I know I'm not. Heck, some of my most functional chicken contraptions are the ones that are kind of rustic. It's stuff that we made and stuff that we upcycled. So just keep that in mind. One of the best things that you can get out of chicken keeping is just DIY chicken keeping, because it keeps you in control. If you have a very tiny budget of $500 or less, you got to keep in mind how much, how much do I have in feed money that I've got to have, how much have I got to have in bedding, what type of breed of chicken am I going to get? Because, breeds of chickens can be expensive. Or are you just going to buy some backyard chickens and some little egg-laying hens and you don't mind spending $4 or $5? Well, that $4 or $5 adds up. The feed adds up. The bedding adds up. So you've got to be very mindful, but also you're in control, complete control of doing DIY chicken keeping. That's just how it is. There's a wonderful part of that where you get to decide what's going to work best for your space. If you're all about aesthetics, that's going to drive your cost up. If you're more worried about what things look like, that's going to drive your cost up. So you just decide what's going to work best for you, what's going to work best for your space, your chickens, and your budget, because honestly, your chickens, they don't really give a crap if their coop is Instagram worthy or not. All they care about is just being safe, protected from the elements, not being gobbled up by predators, and having their constant access to food and water. As long as their basic needs are met, they're happy. They're going to do what chickens do, or, happy cluckers. They're just going to be happy cluckers. That's all. Now, I'm not saying that you should completely forego buying anything new, because sometimes you're going to need specific materials like hardware cloth for, chicken runs. You might decide to upgrade like we did and use a metal shed, which I'm going to put some pictures in here. And we used concrete, and we made a concrete pad to put our 10 by 12 barn on. We have a 10 by 12 barn, we have a 10 by 8 barn, and we also have just metal, runs. We have an angry roo pen. That's where all of our angry roos live happily ever after in bachelorhood. We have our quail barn that has a little flight pen attached. The little flight pen was given to us, so I didn't have to pay for that. But then we had the barn that cost a couple $100, right? And that's not on a concrete pad. That's on a regular, wood frame floor, whatever you want to call it. And then I have my additional runs that I have. I put my ducks up at the front for the winter so they don't need the pool, so I can watch them. And then they have their regular run pen that's out there in the back behind the large chicken yard. And I have a grass pad, grass seed grass out. This actually helps me with my feed and the cost of feed, because it only takes a couple of weeks for that to grow in, and I do a chick mix in that. But that goes off of my large fenced-in chicken yard. Fence didn't cost me anything because somebody was moving, and they said, "Hey, would you like this fence?" And we said, "Yes, thank you." So we got the fence, and we had to buy the concrete. We had to buy a few extra fence posts, some caps, and just some odds and ends on hardware and stuff. And we fenced our large chicken yard in. And then we started off with a very small coop. It was probably about $320 a couple years ago. Now that's probably doubled in price, about $500 or so now. But we decided that hatching, laying hens and doing what we were doing on our farmstead, I needed more chickens, which is great because people like eggs, and we've become pretty popular lately with the eggs. So we decided to use a barn, a metal shed, which is what we got. We went to Wayfair. We got a really nice metal shed. So the cost of the metal shed, I'm going to show you some pictures, to make sure you're looking at it. And you can get whatever you want. You can get metal, you can get wood, whatever. For our cost, metal was better. So I think it might have been between $500 and $700 for the size that we got. I want to say it's a 10 by 12 or 10 by 10. Don't quote me on that. It's in my YouTube video. For sure, I tell you there. When you've had these things a while, like me, you kind of forget, what you got, and exactly what the number of it is. But anyway, we do have the metal, what we call the chicken barn, and we wanted a concrete pad for that because we're in a clay area, right? So things tend to wash away. So it was just easier for us to build I think it's a 4-inch concrete pad. Well, then you got to deal with concrete, and I'll stick some pictures in here and show you what concrete is. You got to make sure you have enough bags of concrete to make the pad to hold the barn and secure the barn too. So you want to make sure you got all of these things in your budget, unless you're going smaller scale, which you can, and I'm showing you some coops and things here in these pictures. So it all comes down to budget. Every bit of it comes down to budget. What do you want to do? Do you want to fence in an area? You got to have money for the fencing. Are you putting up the fence, or is somebody else putting up the fence? In our case, it was our labor. So we put up the fence. We did everything that we needed for the fence. It was all good. And then I have my large chicken yard where I have 4 roosters that are very sweet roosters with all of my girls. And I think I have, I can't remember the quote. I have maybe 25, 30 girls in there. And I'm going to hatch some more because as my old maids get older, they either don't lay as much or they stop laying. And I'd rather them live the rest of their life out happy on the chicken yard. You got to decide, what are you going to do? Am I going to have like this beautifully, aesthetically pleasing, wonderful, magnificent barn so everybody can ooh and ah at all my pictures and be like, oh my gosh, that looks so beautiful? While in everyday people's minds, they're like, ching, ching, ching. Oh my God, that must have costed $10,000, $15,000. And it easily can do that. Very easily can do that. So you want to be extremely mindful. Like I said, you don't have to forego buying anything new because you're going to need some stuff. You're going to need hardware. You're going to need things. If you can't build anything on your own, then you're going to have to buy some stuff. Like you're going to have to buy a coop. You're going to have to do a run or whatever. But, you can look around and check and see if you got anything on your property or with your friends, local marketplaces, family, whatever. Ask if they're getting rid of anything. Are y'all getting rid of anything? Look online. You might be surprised at what you can find and cut costs. You gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta do what you want to do. And I'm just saying that you got it. There's no shame in this game. It doesn't have to look magnificently beautiful like all the pictures. It's got to serve its purpose. That's all. You gotta feed, water, protect from predators, and protect them from injury, illness, and that kind of thing. And I'm telling you, you're going to have some happy chickens. So just make sure, whether you're using a pre-built coop and a run, or you put together a run, or you put together a shed of some kind, a metal shed, or a wood shed, or you're fencing in your yard and just letting them run around free, whatever. You can use anything as long as you make it safe and secure for them, and it's clean. That's all. That's all you have to do. It's not rocket science when you're doing these things, and I know there's a lot of people that try to make it out to be. It's not. Chickens have been around for millions of years, thousands and thousands and thousands of millions of years. Matter of fact, I did a podcast episode on the history of chickens. So go check that out while you're listening to this. Main thing is to be positive. I'm just trying to be positive with you guys. You can start your own set of chickens in your backyard if that's what you can do, and you're in an area to where there's no ordinances against it. If you have $1,000, that'll start you off with something good. Now, if you're getting into hatching, that's a completely different story. I'm trying to get you just started with keeping your chickens and doing things affordable and not insane. That's the main thing here. Don't go insane with things, because people, it's like when you're eating, people will like, oh my God, look at this buffet, and you fill up your plate all the way, and then you overdo it, you overeat, and then you're like, oh my God, I've just spent all this money for a buffet, all you can eat, and all I could eat was what I piled on my plate. Same thing when you're dealing with chickens, farm animals. You see all these wonderful videos and all these things, and I show videos of my babies too, but I'm also real about it. It is not for the faint of heart, and it's not cheap. You have to be able to budget and prepare every month for what you need. Like, I'm going back to feeding. When you feed, the reason why I use these giant, large trash cans is they're easy to clean. I don't have to clean the insides of them because nothing's getting inside of them. I don't have rodent problems and things like that because the chickens eat all the mice. I don't have that problem. And when I do my feed, I do start and grow, layer feed, start and grow, layer feed. That's 4 bags of feed. And if you say, oh my gosh, well, $15 to $16 a bag at 4 bags, and those bags are like 50-pound bags or whatever, and I put them in my giant trash bin, they eat on that for months. So that recurring feed cost, instead of buying those little feeders and things, oh, buy these little feeders, oh, do this, oh, do that. Again, that's up to you. If you want to buy the little feeders, buy them. If you want to make you some PVC pipe feeders, make them. I'm just telling you what we use and what's affordable to me, because I don't have to buy feed often. I just don't. We stir it up, obviously. We have a big old stick that we use like a paddle, and we stir it up and we mix start and grow and layer feed for my girls. That's just what they do. The roos eat it too. And I have chick grit, so that's another expense, because sometimes they eat up all the rocks in the yard. And they have pools. They have little cheap plastic pools. I think maybe they're under $10 that I fill up with diatomaceous earth to keep the worms and to keep the bugs and the mites and things like that off of them. And I mix it with a clean sand. Some people say, oh, don't use play sand. It can get in their lungs, blah, blah, blah. Use the sand that you want to use. As long as they have dirt and it's clean and it's not wet, they use the dirt for dirt baths. That's how they clean themselves. That's how they bathe. And that's how they get the bugs and the mites and all those things off of themselves. So we're looking at a couple of things here when you're considering this, and I want you to consider it. If you're hard considering this, like I am going to do this, I want you to do it affordably, not crazy. Don't go out of your budget. Number one, I want you to set your budget. What is your budget? What can your family afford to do like right now? What can you afford to do? If you can't afford to do it, don't stretch yourself to do it. Wait until you can. Put you a little bit of money away until you can get to at least $1,000 limit. That's what you start off with. Okay? That's what I did. All right? So if you can raise up a little bit of $1,000, that's great. And the reason why I say $1,000 is because you want to make sure that you're getting enough feed and enough snackies, which are mealworms, and enough of your bedding, because that's something you're going to go through. The chickens are just going to go through it. That's just how it is. If you're not free ranging and you just wanting to start a little bit, those are the things you're going to need. Okay? So I'm just going to throw out $1,000. You can say $500 if you want to. That's fine too. And you need to go ahead and, once you set your budget at $500 or $1,000, set that budget. Make sure that you can do that. without busting your bank and without compromising your family needs at all. Okay? Because everybody's got bills to pay. Bills, things are expensive. And chickens are not cheap. I'm telling you. Feed's going to get expensive depending on how many you end up getting, especially with chicken math. Now, if you do chicken math like I do chicken math, you're going to end up with a lot. You end up with a lot of babies. I've got ducks. I've got bob white quail. I've got chickens. We're getting ready to hatch some pearl guinea fowl coming up here, and some turkeys. Because I can do that. I've built up to a point where they're serving me a good purpose, and we're doing fairly decent with those. So I can do that. You may not be able to, especially if you've never done it before, or if you've done it a long time ago, or you remember doing it a long time ago when you were a kid, or you had a family member that had them. When I tell you that there's cost involved, don't overspend, don't overdo. Now, if you're wanting one of these Taj Mahal Palace chicken coops and those kinds of things, and you can afford it, please do that and send pictures, because we still love looking at stuff like that. But I'm talking to the people who can't afford that type of thing. So we're all very budget-friendly DIY here, okay? You got feed, you got coop, you got run, bedding, mealworms, and your chickens. So those are your major expenses. And if you're getting chicks to raise instead of full-grown chickens from somebody, if you're getting chicks, which are absolutely adorable and cute, you have to have the brooders for them. And again, you don't have to be expensive on these brooders. I use a plastic tote box. Okay? Plastic tote box. They're like $6 or $7. I put my bedding in the bottom, and I have my cheap little chick feeder and chick waterers that I get. And I'll show you the pictures here. I cut a little hole in the top of the lid, and I literally duct tape hardware cloth because they're going to get big. And you have to change their bedding out 3 to 4 times a week. And as they get bigger and feather out, then you got to change that bedding daily because it stinks, and you don't want them wallowing around in their own feces. It's not good for them, I'll tell you that. And depending on where you get your chicks from, if you get them from a box store, you're going to get some healthy chicks, and you're going to get some not healthy chicks. That's just how it is. So you're going to get the probiotic, the chick probiotics, and the chick electrolytes to use in their water. That's also an expense. I'll show you some pictures. You don't have to build anything fancy. You don't got to get all these fancy brooders. You can use a regular light, a heat light, a regular chick heat light. Now, if you want to throw in that extra money and overcharge your credit card and use some of these fancy brooders with these fancy brooder lights, go for it. If it's in your budget and you can do it, by all means do it. I didn't. I used one of my microphone stands. That's the truth. One of my microphone stands. And I got an old-fashioned red heat lamp from a big box store, Tractor Supply. Go ahead and say that. Then I got those. I had the heat lamp and 2 bulbs. I got that. It was like $35, I think. Since I already had the microphone stand, all I had to do was attach the back of the clamp, the heat lamp, to the microphone stand and lean it over, because it had a boom arm on it. Lean it over above the top of my plastic brooder box, and it gave them just enough heat so they're warm, just enough light. And that's what we did. And the chicks have done very well, and that's how I do all of them. Chicken breeds also can be expensive, just depending on what you want. If you're just in it for egg layers and you're in it for the breed, again, it's all on cost, all on what you want. They're all going to range you from $5 to, they can go all the way up to $500, depending on what kind of chicken you want. Just understand that not all breeds lay every day. And if you're just in it for meat birds, broiler birds, that kind of thing, you're not going to spend that much time with that chick anyway. Once that chick reaches the size that you want, it could be anywhere from, they say, 4 to 6 to 8 to 12 weeks. Then you're harvesting your meat. Just understand what type of breed do you want. Do you want egg layers? Do you want meat birds? what is it you're after. And also when you get into, I want to raise birds for show. I want to raise chickens for show. That's on a whole nother level of expense. That is very expensive, depending on keeping true to that breed. I'm just trying to get you started on affordable backyard chickens for your brand new homestead, your brand new farmstead, your whatever it is that you want to do. Pets, whatever you want to call them. As long as they've got shelter, it's secure, they're secure, free from predators, free from disease. They've got plenty of food and water every single day. You should be good. So with that being said, thank y'all for watching Crissy's Clucky Chronicles on the YouTube channel. Thank you for listening in on the podcast show. Thank you for going and subscribing to our monthly newsletters, reading the blog, and all that good stuff on crissyoshow.com. I truly heart y'all great big, and thanks for buying from my shop too. So I hope this helps you in some way. I really and truly do. So thanks for tuning in, y'all. We'll see you on the next podcast show.